If my people Bible reading, and this is part 142, this is going to be a zinger. So get out your notebook, and I think you will enjoy this. We've just finished Isaiah. We went through Jeremiah now, and I'm just starting Jeremiah, but we've laid the seeds for it, and the book of Ezekiel, and all of that leads us to a riddle that we went through and you've read, but now's the time for you to understand this. You've gone far enough, I think you can. We don't have to go. This was meant to be riddles and mysteries. Yahweh wants his middle riddles and his mysteries to be solved. He wants them to be solved. He wants you to dig. Listen to some of the stuff you've already gone through. Now, in the book of Jeremiah, specifically chapter 15, verse 14, Yahweh promised Jeremiah, he said, hey, verily well, he didn't say hey, but whatever, it shall be well with the remnant. Once again, the remnant. Verily, I will cause the enemy to entreat thee well in the time of evil and in the time of affliction. And that's Jeremiah 15:11. And this statement is followed by the promise that Jeremiah would pass into the land which he did not know. That's what's coming up. So pay attention to everything. Isaiah, Habakkuk, Ezekiel, now Jeremiah, Lamentations. It's time for you to understand because people were running for the hills. Israel took off, but before that, some things occurred. And in the Babylonian, when they were taken, some people escaped there. Like, for instance, Jeremiah. He didn't go to Babylon, did he? He went to Egypt, and he took, when somebody that royal, that high up, takes off, he doesn't just go, him and his wife and kids. They just don't rent a U-Haul and take off, okay? We're talking about a lot of people left with him. And you never hear from him again, do you? But yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. So let's go to, as you read that, and you stop me at any time, just put it on pause, and so we can catch up. Now, Isaiah tells us that a remnant was to go forth from Jerusalem and escape. Isaiah 37:31. And the remnant that is escaped of the house of Judah, now it doesn't say Israel, it says house of Judah, shall again take root downward and bear fruit upward. And this fits in the Jeremiah's divine commission, which was several commissions he had. See, I have on this day set thee over the nations and over the kingdoms to root out and to pull down and to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant. Jeremiah 1, verse 10. Chapter 1, verse 10. We're about to read it. But before we read that, I want you to understand what you just understood. Because see, as you read Jeremiah and finish it, it didn't happen. Now, this remnant which was to escape was not the remnant that was left by Nebuchadnezzar, nor the entire remnant that went down to Egypt to dwell, but Jeremiah's own particular little remnant, a small, select company that has been given to him to use in planting and building. Since this planting and building was to take place in the land where Jeremiah did not know, it could not have been Egypt, because they knew that. Palestine, Lebanon, Babylon, or any of the small nations surrounding Palestine at all. The expression was to pass is significant. It means travel. Now, these days, so that we understand this, because Bible teachers don't teach this, there was a lot of seafaring going on, a whole lot, folks. Nothing to do with Eric the Red and the Chinese or the Egyptians. It was everybody was traveling all over the place, and Columbus wasn't not even close, a couple thousand years off. Okay, all right, not even close. So we don't even mess with that. Zedekiah had some sons. Now, the scripture and the prophecy was that there was going to be the line, Yeshua was going to come out of that line. Well, it did not come through the line of David. There was a little problem with that, wasn't there? And Zedekiah's sons. But Zedekiah had some daughters, and one of them, once again, we brought this up last time, Scota. Skota. Remember that word, and it helps you to figure out where everybody went, or at least where everybody ended up 400 or 500 years ago, and then travel from there to other places like Canada, United States, the rest of the world. The 12 tribes are really scattered. And as the book of Genesis says, they went to their assigned places. That's what the prophets also said, assigned places. Just keep that in mind as we keep going. So we hear about the first one, that's in Ezekiel 17. Here's the riddle. One eagle came down, Ezekiel 17, 1 through 6. That one's going to be easy to figure out. Oh, I can figure out that riddle. That was Babylon. Yes. And then, and he was a great eagle. So that all, reading the book of Daniel, especially chapter 2, verse 31 to 45, Habakkuk, chapter 1, verse 8. Nebuchadnezzar invaded Lebanon, so he's very familiar with the willow tree riddle part, which is Ezekiel chapter 17, verse 5. Just pay attention to that. Yahweh's laying out everything because he wants you to know who you are. You are scattered and you are lost to him. He wants you to find him. He wants to find you. He wants to draw near to you. Prayer does that. Lots of prayer. The riddle continues on with another great eagle. Now there's a second one coming up, right? Ezekiel 17, verse 7 through 10. Now, put this on pause if I go too fast, or play it back again, or something. But just listen intensely to what I'm saying. There's the second great eagle. Well, that, as you figured out, the Egyptians were pretty proud people in those days and had been for thousands of years, okay? So, a great eagle. There's the second one. I solved that riddle. No, Ezekiel continues. Chapter 17, verses 12 to 21 now. Keep reading. Keep reading. So the second part of the parable, the second great eagle, is set up in contrast to the first great eagle, which saw the aspirations of the kings of Judah, which were brought to nothing. Their failures and perpetuality of the house of David. If the promise was made that this seed will continue to the house of David until he comes, first or second time. Key word, first or second time. It continues on. This is where you hear this stuff about the royal seed line. Now, people have really blow things out of proportion when they're not into the word. So now we have the royal people, the royal blue blood. But they don't mean blue blood, they mean people directly from Yahweh. Who think they are in charge of everything. They think they know everything, but that's such a polluted line. But if it's such a polluted line, it's still a line, and you can trace through it. So there's always some truth in a pile of lies. There's a reason that folklore is folklore. It's maybe forgotten or scattered out about, but something started it years ago. So that's Ezekiel 17, 22 to 24. That's only two verses there. You can put up with that. So now a third one comes along. Well, when you read it in Hebrew, and that's one of the reasons I read things in Hebrew and study all these books, plus another 50 to 100 you haven't seen. I no longer need them, and I'm not going to lug them all over the places I've ever lived. People ask you, which Bible do you follow? Well, I follow 50 or 60 of them. I glean from them. I don't look for imperfections as much as I look for truth. The truth is easy to figure out. You're figuring it out now. So now we're in reading through Ezekiel, and this third feminine form of escape. And it does say escape. Nobody escaped from Babylon. And there's no history after Egypt from the first and second eagle, is there? Now we do know that Yeshua came through the line of Mary. That was also and yes, that did occur, but this one says David. It's always been written before we have read this introduction here that you're going through now. It was David, the line of David. So Miriam did not come through that. It came through another line of the branch, which is true, which has been fulfilled. But the other one of the promise to keep until Yeshua comes, first or second advent, keywords, is you pay attention to that. So who is that line? We only know there was one daughter named Skoda. But if you go to all these countries where people, not United States, I mean people who have a long history have kept things intact, they don't have a problem with what I'm saying at all. They understand it the first time. Oh, we know who that is. The 12 tribes. Okay? Exactly. So in Jeremiah 18, verse 4 through 6, it's an illustration of the house of Judah. The house of Israel condition was that of a vessel of clay. So the Yeshua even said, if the clay is no good and the potter makes something that's inferior, he simply lets it dry and he breaks it and he starts all over again. He can crush it and make it into something better again, but not what he had because it was inferior. So all this new stuff out there, who is the new stuff? You're the new stuff. You're made with the potter's clay. Yes, you are. It's not just the house of the Jewish house. It's not the Judah house. It's the house of Israel. Israel. And all those grafted in. So, once again, if you just say, well, I don't know who I am, and I'm behind 57, and I don't even know who my grandpa was, and it doesn't matter. The Ruach speaks to you from within. So all this through Ezekiel 21, verse 25 to 27, as we continue reading this. And thou profane wicked prince of Israel, whose day is to come, which iniquity shall have an end. Thus saith Yahweh Adonai, remove the diadem, take off the crown, this shall be the same. Shall exalt him that is low, and abase him that is high. I will overturn, 3 times overturn. Key, it and it shall be not more overturned until he, Messiah, comes, whose right it is, and I will give it, the throne of David, to him. There's your big riddle. All these books that we read so far with all this stuff that seems to be nonsense about eagles and clutching and getting something tender from the top of the tree and taking it here. The next one he takes to there, and the third one he takes to there, except the third time it's feminine. Has nothing to do with masculine person. A boy king is to do with a female who continues the line. And if you take a look at the throne in England and Ireland and Scotland and Wales and Cornwall, they're all come through one line. And where does the leadership from Russia come from? The same people. The Queen of England is related directly to Russia, Germany, France, Spain, all of them. United States, 1 out of 20, or about 2 out of 20 of our presidents have direct lineage. It's all still there, folks. So the United States is everywhere in prophecy. Ephraim is the easiest one to figure out. So just a little bit of pause there to think about how detailed this Bible is. It's the most detailed, most irrefutable. You cannot defeat it. People like me who are intentionally looking for truth and mistakes, people who look for nothing but mistakes, that's all they care about because they hate Yeshua, they hate the Father, and deny evil, deny Hasatan, deny the Ruach HaKodesh, deny the Spirit. They're trying to, and they fail. Their failures lead to nothingness, and our failures lead to comfort. Because man, this thing, nobody, nothing, no AI could create something as brilliant as the 66 books of the Word. Simple as that. We love you guys.